Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to episode 7 of Legit Crypto. And this one's going to be a fun one because I actually get to have an awesome conversation with a longtime friend of mine who's been in crypto for, well, much longer than I have and deep into crypto at that. He is currently on the MASA AI team, and I'm a big AI enthusiast. I have my own AI product, but I don't know too terribly much about how AI and Web3 have been playing together to really kind of push the ball forward. So I'm really excited for this conversation with Amateo. And yeah, without further ado, let's just bring Amateo on screen. Dude, before we get started, happy belated birthday.
Oh, thank you.
I heard yesterday was
I
your
appreciate
birthday.
it. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome, man. Did
yeah.
you do
A
anything
little
fun to
Texas
celebrate?
barbecue and just hanging out is pretty chill.
That's
My
awesome.
wife is out of the country, so we will celebrate when she's back. Mhm.
Nice. What barbecue did you have here?
I tried to get Leroy and Lewis in Austin, but they were closed on Tuesdays to my surprise. So I had to pick it up from Styles and Switch, which was a good second uh, choice, but not my favorite.
Nice.
Yeah,
Dude, there's so
yeah.
much good barbecue here. I hadn't
There's
heard
so
of
much.
either of those, so I'm gonna have to check those out.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm excited to like chat about Masa AI and what you're doing there. I know, like I mentioned earlier, when we were hanging out, I was like, "Don't tell me, don't tell me anything yet," because I want to save it for this conversation. Um, but yeah, man, I'd love to just kind of get the 2 or 3 minute elevator pitch on what are the basics of what you and the team are building right now.
Yeah, totally. So, hey everybody, I'm Amateo, head of marketing at Masa, and real straightforward. Masa is the go-to data source for AI in Web3, but also Web2. We're expanding outwards, and the real goal here is to decentralize the critical data sources and data aggregation from places like X or Twitter, whichever one you want to call it,
Hmm.
Discord, Telegram, the public web, podcasts, and a variety of other sources. So essentially, data is really the lifeblood of AI. Data is the thing that trains these AI models that are the things that most of us are interacting with through ChatGPT, Claude. All of these are LLMs that were trained on some form of data.
Yep.
As some of us may be aware, uh, for most of their initial model training, that data was just scraped off of the public web. It wasn't really well sourced. It wasn't really sourced at all. No one really knows where or how they got that training data. And one big giveaway of how these models were trained was the fact that Elon closed the API on
Mm.
Twitter because of the fact that he knew that the Twitter data was used to train ChatGPT. So essentially, we have this big open web, and that data is being scraped and aggregated to train models. Now, some of these companies are creating licensing deals and extracting the value out of their data, etc. But at Masa, what we wanted to do is to give anyone that has an internet connection and some computing power the ability to scrape, aggregate, and contribute data for AI training. And there's a few things that makes Moss's data really unique. We've really come to specialize in real-time data, meaning
Hmm.
that we have a variety of node workers and miners, which I'll explain in a little bit, that are aggregating data from Twitter, public data, stuff that would be on your feed. And that data can actually be used by a number of projects and is being used by a number of projects to do things like crypto sentiment, to get trending meme coins or coins, to build AI agents based on
Huh.
KOLs and influencers. And so, essentially, usually with AI and these chatbots, they're only as up to date as the last uh, model update. So they have
Right.
all of the data to the last model update, but they don't have real time data access. And that's a really unique value prop of Masa data. Um, and that real time data gives them the ability to have an outlook and insight into the active social discourse that's happening and build a variety of specialized AI use cases. And that's really what we're coming to. We're hitting this place where um, basically almost all the LLMs are just neck and neck in parity of power and ability to process information.
Yeah, isn't that the
And
truth?
we have all of these, most of the AI projects in the space are either decentralized compute, CPUs, or decentralized applications that are AI. Um, Anything that's on the decentralized AI application layer are looking to have their own unique value prop. And in order to do that, they need a variety of specialized data to build it. And that's what MASA is supplying, is that incredibly useful, very valuable data that's being contributed and is readily usable for AI. Mhm.
Now, dude, if I'm understanding you correctly, um, and you might have to repeat some of this, so pardon me,
No
but
worries.
basically, you said you're basically utilizing, you're storing from all these data sources. You're aggregating it, so you're building this in this huge model essentially, and that model is the underlying value add to people who want to leverage Masa for their own decentralized AI app or even a Web 2 app. Is that kind of how I'm understanding? I'm thinking of you guys as like
Yeah.
its own underlying layer that I would actually be able to leverage for my own AI.
Yeah, I'll break that apart a little bit because it's
Okay.
less about a model, right? A model would
Okay.
be like Llama 3.1, which is the open source model that Meta released.
Yep.
What we do, though, which you're spot on, is we do provide a decentralized data layer, and
Okay.
that is real time, static, annotated. There's all these different ways that data has to be cleaned, structured, and retrieved in order to be usable for a model. So while we do internally run models on top of our data, and we're going to make some of those models publicly available for people to do, to have like a chatbot, right? I'll give you a tangible example.
Yep.
Um, uh, we're working on an LLM chatbot that
Mm-hmm.
people can interface with. That when they ask questions, that chatbot is accessing the MASA network
Mm-hmm.
to aggregate real time data based on their questions to give them real time results. So I could ask it based on the active posts on X, is the social sentiment on Bitcoin bearish or bullish?
Mm-hmm.
Or what is people's, give me a summary of people's reactions to the Federal Reserve lowering basis points by 50 BPS today, right?
Right.
That's
I just saw that.
yeah, right. So that's obviously a hot topic.
Yep.
You may want to get an idea of how people generally feel about that rather than just read a news article or doom scroll. It'd be
Right.
very useful. So you can run LLMs, AI agents. So people are already building trading bots with MASA data where they're, oh, okay, we see on chain movements. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to couple that with social trends that they're able to detect through MASA data. Now, MASA has two components. We have a MASA protocol
Mm-hmm.
and a BitTensor subnet that we recently launched, that has a full set of miners on both the protocol and the subnet. It's all of these people contributing data. And then the validators in the network verify the data for accuracy, and it's available to the people making requests.
Dude, I gotta ask you this because I've been really curious. So yeah, we've talked about BitTensor or Tau, before.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I've known as I've gotten a little bit more used to this whole crypto AI space. Um, if you can, I know this might be a little bit
Yeah.
technical, but like, so how does that we'll call it a handshake work between your network Masa and then how you leverage the Tau network? Like,
Yeah.
what is that exchange that's happening? Because that's what I don't quite follow, just because it's all novice.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of really technical people in the BitTensor community, so I will say, spare me if I'm not as technically minded as them,
For
because I don't
sure,
want to.
for sure.
I really respect the minds in the BitTensor community.
Yep.
I've been in crypto for a long time. I don't think I've ever seen as sophisticated of a community as I have in BitTensor. And the more that I lean into it and research, I'm a learner
Mm-hmm.
of BitTensor. I'm no expert. Um, I just think it's incredible. And the idea, obviously, behind BitTensor is first we had Bitcoin, which was this decentralized value storage and exchange mechanism, anti fragile, global, right?
Yep.
Then
Yep.
we had Ethereum that was smart contracts, programmable money, the ability to launch tokens, essentially this uh, decentralized contractual and agreement network. You can do escrow, you can do lending, you can do all these things. What BitTensor is it's essentially a decentralized AI ecosystem where you have to actually acquire a subnet. You have to register one.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Okay.
once you have a subnet, it's actually an extremely competitive environment. So in Bitcoin, obviously, you have all these miners all over the world competing, right? Drawing in using tremendous amount of power and resources and hardware to compete for the rare Bitcoin that's being mined out of the network.
Right.
Um, BitTensor is essentially everyone who's on the subnets, and they just expanded the subnets. It was 45, I think it's now 52, um, are competing for the Tau emissions, which is like Bitcoin emissions that get spread. So everyone's competing, but you have to show um, activity,
Mm-hmm.
interest, transactions
Huh.
in order to get validators and people in the network to stake and contribute to your subnet.
Okay.
And mhm,
So just so I'm following you correctly. So uh, Masa, you guys have your own subnet on
we
Tau.
do
Is that what I understand? Okay,
exactly
I got it. Now I'm putting the puzzle pieces
exactly.
together.
Yeah. And BitTensor has some limits. So you can only have so many validators and you can
Okay.
only have so many miners. It's actually capped currently at 256 miners. And the miners on our BitTensor subnet are actively aggregating and contributing data to the subnet every day, all day. But that's 256, right?
Right.
Our goal is to build a global community of miners. So, really, the by design, we want the best miners to, and those with maybe a bit more substantial compute and data access, they can contribute to BitTensor because it's performance based. The more you contribute, the more you earn. The unique thing about our subnet is that we offer reward emissions in both MASA and Tau.
Oh,
So,
really?
mhm,
Okay.
mhm. It's as far as I know, it's like the first dual emission subnet. So it's a little has a bit more incentive mechanism than other subnets, and we hope that that creates a competitive environment. And just is everything is game theory based, and so we want to create the most fertile environment for data innovation on BitTensor, and we want to build a global network of millions of people aggregating data to the MASA network, which is so you could consider the BitTensor subnet to be an extension of the MASA protocol, and they work together through the data access and exchange.
Got it. Got it.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna probably repeat a few things back to you because I want to make sure I'm not just saying got it, but I can actually, make sense of it all. Very simply put, what came across to me is, with BitTensor and Tau, they don't have the traditional mining like Bitcoin does. Instead, they allow people or companies to create subnets, and through the interactivity and activity on those subnets and contributing to those subnets, that's essentially how companies like yours can then, for lack of better terms, mine or receive Tau or
Mm-hmm.
value from the greater network. And for you guys with the subnet, You're allowing others to come along and essentially mine or contribute by aggregating data as a way to pass value back to them. So there's this value chain that's happening from BitTensor through MASA, through the subnet, through people utilizing MASA chain. Did I get that right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So, um, obviously, we don't just hoard all of the tau that we receive. We
Right.
spread it and share it across the subnet to the validators and the miners who get to share in the tau that we receive from operating a subnet. In addition to Masa tokens, because you have to stake in order to contribute. You have to stake tau, and at some point, you might have to stake Masa, but the idea is that there is this emission spread across the network, and it's highly competitive. You have to be very active. You have to create fair economics. If you don't uh, apply certain principles, then you're at risk of your subnet degrading. And so the idea is it sort of decentralizes innovation, contribution, as well as funding and distribution, versus a traditional model. It's a fully decentralized model, and it's really neat. BitTensor's tokenomics means that it has halvings, just like Bitcoin.
Yep.
There's only 21 million. It was all fair launch. It's a really fascinating model. They definitely have first mover advantage, and for us, we just saw, with our passion to build a truly decentralized data network, it was just the right place for us to build that fertile ecosystem of contributors.
Nice, dude. Hey, before I just ask a few more questions, I just want to say what's up to everyone in the live chat. I see Aoi, Ishnael, Martin. Who else we got? Some people from Masa, Kryptonic, and Pale Vampire. Nice, welcome back. If you guys have any questions related to AI in the decentralized space, Masa and what they're building, drop the questions you have in the live chat. We're going to go into a little bit of a Q&A round later in this live stream, and I'll star them as I see them. So I'll come back to them. So just hang out, drop your questions, and then you, Amateo, can answer anything that might be on your guys' minds.
Welcome all the questions.
Dude, this is a little bit more of a personal one. But like, what drew you into the kind of AI side of crypto? Because I know you've kind of danced around, many facets of crypto over the past, like 8 years? You've been in crypto for 8 years? Is that right?
A little bit, gosh, a little bit less. You think, I think it was end of 2017 is when I
okay.
joined. You'd think I'd be retired by now, but
You think we'd all be retired by now?
I know. Yeah, honestly, after going through quite the rigmarole in this industry and experiencing a lot of ups and downs, I was looking for a new opportunity, and I met the co-founders of Masa, Brendan and Calanthea, and they are just incredible. Brendan is a super genius of unbelievable proportions. He's not just one of the co-founders; he's actually an extremely talented engineer and developer and physics mathematician. I mean, incredibly smart. And we just really hit it off. And Calanthea, I always just say she's the hardest working woman in crypto. She just is unbelievable. She's absolutely brilliant. And we just was this early concept and an idea. And Masa went through a lot of iterations, actually. When I joined it, we were really working on finding product market fit. We tested a bunch of things. And a lot of times in this industry, projects launch and they just say, this is who we are, this is what we do. And they basically don't give themselves the opportunity to find product market fit. And as a result of that, Some of them, a lot of them, probably 90% of them, die on the vine. I mean,
Dude,
they're
it's
not
such
willing
an
to
important part of
evolve.
the process.
It's so standard in the startup world, and you have to have that mentality in crypto, especially for this next generation of, I think, where we're going. I think what I hope is that real use cases and real value emerge as the dominant trend.
Yeah.
A lot of people have talked about that. I know that it's where I've put my chips over a period of time. And there's always been, scams pump the hardest, stuff not actually working out. But um, I think that real value, real use cases as our industry matures and as projects mature is going to be key. And so we went through this evolution of finding product market fit. And as we were doing that, we were really building this decentralized data layer. And
Hmm.
we tested a variety of different data sets and data tools. We have a great BD team. So we've talked to literally like hundreds of projects. What are your data needs? What are you trying to build? And what we realized was that uh, real time access and unique data sources was going to be the real winner.
Okay.
And for us, we then quickly built a network, an ecosystem where people could contribute that data, get rewarded. That's the benefit of crypto, it's a benefit of blockchain for doing so, and quickly realize the importance of decentralizing this process. One, because data is being stolen by big AI. Two, big AI is dominating everything in the AI space. It's like, okay, wait, Microsoft and Meta and
Yep.
Google are going to be the winners again. We that's, I think that all of us on the MASA team still have that core mentality of like, uh, we have to decentralize the power and disrupt. And we just went through that evolution, and AI just really kind of came into its own while we were doing that. And so it was less about me wanting to get involved in AI, although I'm so happy I ended up here because I'm using AI tools every day. I have learned how to train AI to build and create stuff for me. And um, I do think it's the future. I also think I'm very concerned about AI safety. And I think that what we've built answers a lot of questions and really stays to the philosophy and values that really matter to myself and I think everybody on the team.
Yeah, for sure. Are you familiar with the? It's kind of more of a startup-y term, eating your own dog food. Have you ever heard of that term?
Absolutely. I always I always cringe a little bit when I hear it, but yeah, yeah,
I know, it's such a
absolutely.
funny term, but
I
for
know.
anyone that doesn't know what that term means, it's basically like a term a lot of like tech startups use, where it's like if you're building a product or a service, like are you actually utilizing that product or service for your own company or you individually? And so I think it's an important part of the process, especially like, when you're early on and you're trying to find product market fit. So that leads me to the question, how and or are you currently in that state? Like, is Masa using Masa to basically eat your own dog food with your own product in whatever little tools or what have you? Is that something you're
Yeah.
doing or on the road to doing?
Yeah, so the answer is both. So essentially, the best way that we can test the application of our data is to build stuff in real time with it. So um, over the course of the last 30 days, we put out some use cases. There's some
Mm-hmm.
great tweets up there. One is we created a meme coin AI agent, and Brendan showed people how to build one in minutes using Masa data
Wait, this is on
and
your Twitter or on your website? Because I just brought up
on our
the
on our
screen
Twitter. Yeah,
on your
on our
Twitter.
Twitter. Yep.
Let's
And
see.
so it's a demo where he walks through how to build a meme coin AI agent. We post a lot of content. We had a
It's
lot,
probably
so
pretty
it's in
buried.
there. Yeah, I can try to pull it up and send it to you. But essentially, um, this was a great example of how to build a meme coin AI agent in minutes, where you could literally scrape a bunch of data and then ask it what meme coins are trending, who's talking about them, etc.
That's
And that was
cool.
a really great demo of how to use MASA data. We also created a use case demo around building a KOL agent, AI agent, where we scraped all of Ansom's X profile to build an Ansem AI agent where you could, ask him questions and have him make posts. And these are the kinds of the fun things that you can do. And it's just an example of the kind of the limitless opportunity. What I'll do here is I have them, I'm going to drop them both in the chat on YouTube. I think that's the best place to share them, and then you can check them out. But essentially, these are two use cases of many. We're working on building that LLM, as I mentioned, that we can use more internally, as well as provide externally. But the only thing, the only reason we're not right now is because we are prioritizing all of our partners. So we
Mm.
have so many partners that are using MASA data actively. We put out a case study with Ola Wealth. They are essentially scraping over 1 million tweets a month that they're using for their trading sentiment platform.
Wow.
And they're getting all of these data insights because they had all this on-chain stuff, right? So there's so much on-chain data, and you can draw so many incredible data points from that. But yet, social sentiment has been this black box where you almost have to scroll or do all these creative things to be able to track the trends. And so they've built social sentiment tools for this purpose. We also have another partner that we're going to be releasing a really cool case study for in the next week. And so really, we've been just prioritizing, making sure that our partners have quality access to data as we'll continue to develop products and scaling the network, which has been really key for us.
Nice, dude. Yeah, I'm sure it's a really, wild thing to be able to have to harness focus, right? Especially when you're in the early days of building product, much less something as revolutionary, so to speak, is this. But I love that like other people are building these like small little utilities that can go viral or gather attention, or like simple concepts like you mentioning, being able to create a little data store of Ansem tweets so that you can interact with him. Like people can grasp that really quickly. So I love those little things as a mechanism of growth and awareness. So that's really cool.
Yeah,
Someone said,
we have a public Hugging Face, Masa Foundation Hugging Face, which is like a data repository, and we're going to be updating it with more. But right now, there's all this data that's on there. We have a huge repository of Huberman Lab
mm-hmm.
podcasts. So, little teaser as the next demo we'll be publishing is basically how to create a Huberman AI agent using all of his content, which is like really useful, right? Like, so if you think about that, you could say like, I would like to create the most optimal morning protocol. You could listen to a lot of podcasts, hours and hours, but you have a little LLM agent that's trained on all of his podcast material, and then boom, it gives you a full protocol of all the steps you should take based on all of his most up to date
Interesting.
and research back recommendations. And we're going to have more of this data that people are scraping get fully readily available in Hugging Face, our public MASA Foundation data repository, and provide just open uh, value to the people, because we believe that this data that's publicly available is a public good, and it's important to have that public good available for all of these fun use cases that are really important for people.
Hey, dude, let me ask you a quick question, because this is one thing that I've been learning in my own ventures in AI and building a more of a Web 2 product. Um, And that is, one of the largest barriers to entry whenever you're trying to build specific AI agents on a hyper specific topics or someone's content, like like Huberman or whomever it might be, right? The biggest barrier entry I've found is largely the aggregation of data. Right now, at least in what I'm seeing, is unless it's been scraped and it's in one of the larger models out there, it really doesn't exist or it's not that accurate. So you're basically having to build your own custom data store with all your own unique content, right, for the AI agent to parse through.
Exactly.
With what you're building, is it more of the scenario where, you know, MASA basically does that work? So you can basically point it at Kev the Dev, right? And it can just go out, suck up all my content, my X posts, whatever it might be out there to fill my data store automagically, so to speak. Is that
Yep.
part of the kind of the real time aspect? Did you say yes?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The idea is that we could just
Dude.
go grab your Twitter account, get everything for you. You could point it to your YouTube channel. One of the things that we have is the ability to what we call diarize speech. And that's the ability to take podcasts or YouTube and turn it into
Oh,
text in real time that is raw training data. Now, the thing that's really unique about what we've built in the network, and it's probably most easily understood in the BitTensor subnet, is that you have miners who are contributing all the data, right? But they don't only contribute the data. Data is often really messy. So there's actually entire startups that are only focused on cleaning data so that AI can use it. But we've actually built data structuring and cleaning built into the system. So the
that was my
miners,
next question.
yeah, the miners actually structure and help clean the data, and the validators, validators in a network in crypto, they usually prove transactions, right? They say all the little nodes in the network, you contributed transactions. Let's prove those transactions to make sure they actually happen, verify them, and settle it on the network, right? But in Masa, we're using that validator model where they're actually comparing all of the contributions that the various miners contributed, and they're finding the most accurate answer of the
Oh,
data that's
dude.
served up. And that accurate answer of the data that's served up is the one who wins, which is exactly what you want it to be. So you can think about it, just the evolution that I talked about Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's really taking the same kind of structural model, but taking this brilliantly engineered concept of making this data, helping remove uh, the hallucination in it
The craft, yep.
by by creating a level set verification system for accuracy and then serving it up in a way that they can use right away. And
Bro,
that if they want to refresh it, they can do it at the click of an API call, SDK call, or through running their own Oracle node that pings the network directly.
dude, that is incredible. I'm blown away only because that's been one of the largest challenges I've faced is the structure of the data matters, and there's so many little intricacies that can impact the quality of a response, from redundancies to whatever, not proper structure to bloated content. Like there's so much that can impact the quality of a response. So the fact that you guys are already actually thinking of that ahead of time, it just, yeah, that's incredible.
It's
It's
really
really
cool.
exciting, dude. It's really exciting.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we just took this massive leap in having this go from something that we were testing to something that all these projects are using in the last several months,
Yeah.
and so now we're really getting better and better at communicating it. Because it is so mind blowing, and the levels of it's a little complex, but it's one thing that I talked about last time I was hanging out with Brendan is that it's really hard to do.
Mm.
This is really hard engineering to pull off. And there's multitudes of this process that at times different companies hire for. So you could have a company that just goes gets you the data. Then you have a company that goes and cleans the data. Then you have a company that goes and puts the data into an LLM. All you have to do is plug it into what you're doing, and we're taking care of the rest. And it's all in a decentralized fashion, where the network itself is open source and has the ability to run independent of MASA, which is really important for we have our tagline fair AI powered by the people. It should be people powered, it should be fair, and it should be a fair and equitable access to the world's data, because the people need to be able to innovate and build with it.
Yeah, totally. I got a basic question for you because
Yeah.
through this whole conversation, obviously I'm kind of thinking through the lens of my own Web 2.0 app, of like, oh shit, this is really interesting. Like, how can I incorporate this? Um, the question isn't how can I incorporate this, but more so, how does the, if you can say,
Mhm.
how does the revenue structure work? So like, let's just talk about this scenario. Here's me,
Yeah.
I'm app developer moving from, web 2 or whatever. All right, creating an app that is an AI agent that I want to be able to utilize MASA. How does that exchange work in terms of, are there, like, what are the
Yeah.
fees? Am I utilizing MASA tokens
Totally.
for every data pull? Like, how does that structure work?
Yeah, it's a great
If,
question. I'm really glad you asked that,
yeah.
because currently all of Masa data is completely free,
Okay.
and there is no fee. There will be in the future, but currently it's free. And it's free because we want to scale the network. We want to test the various kinds of demand. We don't want to put any kind of paywall in between the developers and the data.
Smart.
It's really important to us because we're in a refinement and a scaling phase. As everything gets humming at many factors of magnitude larger, then we will have a Masa token exchange for those data calls. And we haven't unveiled that model yet, but I will say this: we are committed to making Masa data affordable and accessible. So many of our partners were using the Twitter API.
Hmm.
That is $5,000 per month at the base level with very limited access. If you go above that, it's not linear. It's not like 10K for this much. It can get very expensive. We've had multiple partners that were able to get more data, have it be real time, broaden the access to their data, drop their API subscription, and they're already saving at least 60K a year because they
Wow.
got to drop the API access. So we are committed to making the data affordable, and really the Masa token will be the utility to power that network exchange. But affordability is really important for us.
Good on you, man. That's awesome. I mean, I think it goes without saying that, the first step of building product is you're just trying to find community product market fit just to get past zero, right? You're kind of like going 0 to 1 just to see if you can get there. But it sounds
Yeah.
like it's a smart move when you're trying to go, okay, we found it, but now how do we think about scale and growth, right? And I think those sorts of mechanisms where you can be a little bit more giving and generous with like people utilizing the system, getting value out of the system as like
Yeah.
yet another proof point. Um,
And
so
staking Masa tokens is still required to like run an Oracle node and contribute to the network. Staking is also available to everyone. So there's still a mechanism for the token to be utilized, right? It's not like the
yeah,
token is just waiting for its life purpose. Like it's already being staked to help contribute. If you're a miner, if you're a node worker, if you're a validator, there is a staking of Masa process in there. So it's already built intrinsically into the system. But right now, currently, Masa data is free. there is AI developers that are listening to this, come reach out to us. We're very hands on. We love to get people on calls. Our BD head Matt is just killer with this. He'll get you all set up, and our team will make sure that you have everything you need to get up and running at full speed.
Nice. Looks like I was just brought up the staking. Looks like you got like 2.67% of the circulating supply staked. What's the total supply, if you can say?
Yeah, I think it's around 1.5 billion.
Got it.
Let me pull up the latest stats. So we have, uh, yeah, it's 1.59 billion, and
Okay.
we have about 500 million MASA currently in circulation. 31%. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's cool. Did you guys do the whole ICO originally when you launched, or
So we were like the first AI project in 2024 to do a CoinList sale.
okay?
So we went through CoinList. We did a community sale on CoinList. They're an amazing partner for us. And the first lot of tokens, I think, sold out in like under 8 minutes and crashed the website and the whole thing. And then we opened up a second tier. Everything was done in minutes. A lot of people were struggling to get through. There was tremendous demand. We're really grateful for that. And so, yeah, so that was the way that we came to the community with the token. Mhm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's awesome. Hey everyone, so we got about 15 minutes left in the stream. If anyone has any questions for Amateo at all about MASA or anything, drop them in the chat now. I've seen a lot of praise um, for
Thank
Amateo
you.
in here, so that's really awesome. Official Justice says Amateo is really doing a job on the marketing side, so kudos. But
Thank
yeah,
you.
if anyone has any questions, we're going to keep talking, but drop them in now because we're going to roll into a little bit of a Q&A session. But yeah, man, this is exciting. I'm glad we saved this conversation to actually do a live stream because I've wanted to text you and chat with you about this for quite some time.
Yeah, me too. It's really fun to share. You know, uh, we do Twitter Spaces each week, and we put a lot of content out there. But I'm not always out there talking about Masa, and I am really passionate about what I'm doing and what we're doing here. And our whole team has been at Token 2049. Not our whole,
Mm-hmm.
but the co-founders, and they are. I think Brendan and Clanthea spoke at 17 events over the course of like 4 days. So
Wow, Jesus,
put,
man,
they're putting
that's
in work out in
draining.
Singapore, man. It's crazy.
Oh man, that is crazy. Wow. Yeah, man, just running a project like this, you just got to be everywhere and anywhere and just like helping spread the word, especially
Yeah.
how early it is. In crypto as a whole, much less kind of the AI crypto space. Where do you? I mean, if the crypto bell curve, we're still kind of climbing that bell curve slowly but
Yeah.
surely in the crypto space, right? Where do you see kind of the whole AI narrative on that bell curve? Are we just
Mhm.
like barely, lipping, or what would you say to that?
It's a great question. We sometimes ask people and our partners on our spaces, like, is AI and crypto underhyped and overhyped? And a lot of times the answer is both. Um, I
Right.
think that I think that we had this initial speculative run with AI, and now it's kind of cooled off. Um, where I think we're at right now is there's a real opportunity. And it really depends on how ready the sector is, right? Um, so I'll give you a little example. Um, Most people might remember, if they've been in crypto a little while, that we had what would say the first killer use case that drove an insane amount of hype, which was like the ICO and Ethereum craze in
Yep.
2018. And that was a use case that was completely new. People didn't have the means to launch coins without being super sophisticated developers. Um, And we since been able to reduce that barrier to entry more and more with Solana, etc. And then we had, I'd say, one of the big drivers of the next cycle was NFTs, which was an innovation. We also had, kind of the first meme coin cycle, which went absolutely absurd. And we
So
had,
stupid.
yeah, and in the same time in that cycle, we had like L1, L2 craze, right?
Yep.
Where it was like Ethereum's congested, um, uh, and um, I remember at one point I did like how much have you spent on gas during that cycle, and it was like tens of thousands of dollars, and I was like
Yeah.
mortified.
Yep.
um, but uh, that was that use case. So I think right now where we're at in the cycle, right, is that like the Fed just dropped basis points. It's kind of big question mark state of global economy, state of global affairs. It's going to be a little hard to evaluate the timeline here, but I think the status of things is that we're looking for the next killer use case.
Hmm.
What is the next killer use case? And I think there's two primary verticals that people are expecting, and that's gaming and that's AI. I think that's where the majority of the chips are. I think with gaming, just to divert for a second, what we really need is some viral breakout moments. I think that that can cascade a ton of attention, a ton of retail interest, and I just don't think we've seen that breakthrough moment in this cycle. We had a little
Hmm.
bit with Axie, we had a little bit with CryptoKitties in the previous one. This was new, but I think that that breakthrough moment needs to happen.
Hmm.
Now, with AI, what we're looking for is these killer AI use cases. And I think the most dominant ones we've seen thus far is decentralized uh, GPUs. That's Render, that's Akash, that's a lot of these smaller projects. And that has a lot of value. And obviously, that's live. The demand is there. Aether, you know, I think reported like 30 million in revenue. I mean, so that's real, right? Like that's a real use case. It's very interesting. I think that it can create some hype, but it's not as user centric,
Right.
which is what tends to drive the cycle. So where is the AI based kind of user centric user interest um, part of it? It really depends on where our breakout moment is. I think the one thing that is great about what we have at Masa is we have a real product and it's working.
It always helps.
Yeah, and that's a big thing out there. There's a lot of AI projects that don't have real working products, but I think the more that if things can be timed correctly, we are, I would say, at kind of what you would expect in coordinates with like the it's like the stock market, cycle trend, where we've had the first hype in AI, it's come down a bit, but the real takeoff is about to start. And I think BitTensor's good chance of leading the way. Projects with real use cases and real value like Masa and others are going to be right there, and we'll probably see these um, GPU market right behind it. Nvidia hasn't seen a slowdown in demand, even though the stock may be cooling off a bit. I think that the AI bubble is still here. I don't think it's popped when it comes to crypto, but I think we need real use cases that can drive the hype.
Yeah, I'm excited about it as well because a lot of the a lot of the crypto use cases so far, outside of meme coins, which are their own degenerate use case, has
Totally.
obviously been like Bitcoin store of value, and then mostly DeFi applications, right? Like for the most part. And while those are all well and good, I think that can only take you so far into um, more mass understanding and adoption. And that's why, like you mentioned about games, I think they're a great, segue to cast a wide net to bring people in. And I think AI is another interesting one, especially as like, the larger incumbent AI platforms are already doing some of the legwork. It's only natural those use cases can then start to like move their way into this, world of Web3. So I think that's a good one. I think it's actually a really good one.
I do
Um,
too. Yeah, I
um,
think it has
because,
a lot of potential. Mhm.
yeah. So yeah, man, I'm excited. Things like that can help bring more of them common folk into like crypto. I think is nothing but a net positive.
Mhm.
All right, dude.
I
I
think
got
that's the
one community
beauty of.
question after this, but go ahead.
Okay,
No,
cool.
continue your thought.
Yeah. I was gonna say that that's kind of the beauty of the things that are being built on BitTensor. There's already like decentralized LLM chatbots that you can work with. There's image generators. There's all sorts of fun stuff to play with, and it's really neat that it's live, living products because there's Sports Tensor, which is like a sports betting platform that actually got some pretty incredible results that it's delivered. So I think that this real tangible stuff could create a lot of hype. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. All right, I got a fun question for you. Let me just pull this up on the screen and I'll ask you. You could probably see it if you're on YouTube.
Hmm.
Um, Pale Vampire. This is a good question, especially for me. Amateo, as an AI developer or on an AI team, if you were launching a meme coin, how would you leverage MASA's capabilities to optimize and enhance your project?
Yeah, it's a great
This is
question.
advice from me,
Um,
bro.
yeah, yeah, totally. I think the underlying question that you'd have to ask yourself there is what kind of data would be valuable as a meme coin project, right?
Right.
So I would think that you would probably want to look at most meme coin craze is done through social trends, right? At least that's what I gather. I'm not super
Yep.
deep in it, but I think it's mostly social based. So what I would want is I would want to be able to. There's so many meme coins out there. There is. It's a lot to research. So I'd say probably the most um, low hanging fruit answer that I have to that is how do I aggregate a multitude of data insights on meme coins across the entire social sphere? What tweets have performed best? What meme coins have uh, had the most social mentions and traffic? What meme coins are being talked about by who? And see, okay, maybe with that you can run an LLM with that data, or just you could pull the data from Masa. You can easily boot up a little LLM, and then you can ask it these questions that I just mentioned, and it can aggregate those answers for you, so you could build a more cohesive strategy around your meme coin. As we build out the web scraper, we have it available already, but it doesn't have as many like public endpoints that people can just easily attach to. But as we do, you can essentially go scrape the websites of over 1,000 different meme coins and synthesize the most critical components to
Huh.
build the most ideal website. If you have to be a guild owner in the Discord, but if you're a guild owner in a multitude of different meme coin communities, you could determine what's the sentiment like, what is the thing that helps keep the community positive. I think more than anything, meme coins are sentiment driven. And so sentiment analysis continues to be a huge use case for us with our ability to analyze the discourse that's actively happening on X. And I think that's the most logical thing. Look at how the sentiment trends are affecting a variety of different meme coins, and then explore how you can engineer that for yourself.
Yeah, dude. I think that's really smart. That's really, really, really smart. Um, yeah, I mean that's great. That's great advice for my meme coin, much less like any other project. Is that sentiment analysis and how people are thinking about it. So good, Pale Vampire. Awesome question.
Yeah, great
Um,
question.
all right, dude. Before we close this live stream out, I've got a curveball question for you. If you're down for a
All right.
curveball,
Uh,
um, Sweet. I can't take credit for this question. It's not my own, but it's one of my favorite questions that one of Tim Ferriss, a guy that used to listen to podcasts,
Mhm.
used to always ask, and I loved hearing the answer. So let's just like put Masa to the side. This isn't a
Sure.
project question. This is just like me, Kevin, you, Amateo. My question to you, and that is, if you could put a billboard anywhere in the world for 24 hours, where would you put it, and what would it say?
Hmm. Uh, I love that question. Uh, Let me pull it up because I actually have a good answer to that.
I already have a billboard somewhere in the world. Let
Yeah,
me pull it up.
right. um, uh,
Don't be asking
so
Masa AI for the best answer either.
I'm not. I promise. Uh, I'm a spiritual person, so it's a spiritual answer.
I like it.
And what I would put on the billboard is actually a quote from Carl Jung that says he was asked whether he believes in God. And I'd have the question say, do you believe in God? And his answer is, which I would have on the billboard, is I do not need to believe. I know.
I love that. I love that.
I know. And I just think, obviously wouldn't push that to anything, but just that I know. So that's one of my favorite quotes, if not my favorite quote of all time. And I think it's just a beautiful thing. So that's what I would want to have on a billboard. Hopefully, just remind someone of what's inside of them.
I love that. All right. The second part of
Yeah.
the question, where would it go?
Ooh. Middle of Washington, D.C.
Oh my God, dude. That's really funny. Okay, you get bonus points for that. That's really funny.
Bunch of heathens.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's really funny. Oh man. What's great? I love I love that question, but I love what it can tell me about a person, in
Mm,
multiple ways, right? Like obviously this gives me a sense of who you are and your relationship to God and the universe and all that.
sure.
But more so, it's always fascinating for me to see where people answer the question first. Do they go the more creative, like personal side with what's on the billboard, or do they go to the more like pragmatic, logical side of like where it goes in the world? So it's
Totally.
just it's one of those questions that like is always fun to ask and just get to know
Yeah,
someone with.
absolutely. And I just don't think Carl Jung gets nearly. I mean, he obviously is very loved, but I think that no matter where you come from, what background, uh, understanding the stuff he brought to the world is just incredibly valuable.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I need to read more of Carl Jung. It's one of those things where I see a bunch of his quotes that pass by on feeds or through these sorts of conversations, but I've never
Yeah,
actually like listened to or read. So thanks for the nudge there. I dig it.
highly recommend. Mhm.
Awesome. All right, dude, let's wrap up the stream. Thanks again so much
Cool.
for having this conversation. Everyone in the live chats, I really appreciate you all being here. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Amateo from MASA AI as much as I did. And yeah, Amateo, anything you want to leave us with?
Thank you everybody for tuning in. Y'all are awesome, and I really love what you're doing, Kev the Dev, and this broadcast and everything. I've just been great to see your journey with this and being a part of the community. And invite everyone to check out Masa. Pretty simple, Masa.ai, and definitely go follow us on X. We're always posting lots of stuff and keeping the community engaged.
Cool. All right, everyone. See you in the next one. Later.
Awesome. Thank you so much.